Last year, I was lucky enough to travel along the Mekong through Cambodia and Vietnam. And on the way, I discovered great bustling cities and quiet, peaceful little fishing villages, spectacular temples, and the contrasts of war and peace. And these are all connected by Southeast Asia's greatest river, the mother of all waters, the Mekong. So welcome to my postcard. My journey began in the north, in Vietnam's ancient capital, Hanoi. And just like most cities in Vietnam, contrasts abound here. It's downtown madness. The old rubs up against the new, the rumble of frenetic commerce, a constant backdrop to the tranquility of lakes and temples. And as always in this country, reminders of conflict and suffering are never far away. Right in the center of Hanoi lies a place of reflective calm and a favorite of mine to visit, the Temple of Literature. This example of well-preserved traditional Vietnamese architecture is dedicated to Confucius, and it was here that the country's first university was established almost 1,000 years ago. Gifted students from all over Vietnam would come here to study the principles of Confucianism, literature, and poetry. These delightful turtles carry large stone slabs on their backs, on which were recorded the names and achievements of exceptional scholars. And today, the temple altars are popular with students praying for good exam grades. From the peace and quiet of a temple to the madness of Hanoi's old quarter, its historic heart, a confused jumble of narrow streets packed with scooters, bikes, pedestrians, sidewalk vendors, and more scooters. Tiny shops explode out onto the sidewalks. The air smells of grilled meat and exhaust fumes. It's loud and chaotic and humming with its own energy. And it's all great fun for an hour or two. I ended my day with a visit to an architectural curiosity, the one-pillar pagoda. The original one was built way back in 1049, but was tragically destroyed by the French in 1954. Though a year later, it was rebuilt. It's designed to resemble Vietnam's national flower and a symbol of Buddhist purity, a lotus blossom emerging from the water. It all rests seemingly precariously on a single concrete pillar, looking as if just one good push would send it toppling over into the water below. The next day, after some free time in Hanoi, we changed country and flew to Siem Reap in Cambodia. If you're into temples, then you'll love Siem Reap. And even if, like me, temples aren't really your thing, well, be prepared to have your mind changed. We will come to the temples shortly, but first, I just wanted to wander around and get a feel for this country, my first time in Cambodia. Cambodia is about the same size as Missouri, with a population of roughly 17 million people. And that was one of the first things that impressed me, the people. Warm and welcoming, quick to smile, more laid back than the Vietnamese, they carry a certain gentleness with them, which starkly contrasts with the appalling violence of their recent history under the Khmer Rouge. There was a lot to catch the eye in Siem Reap. Beautiful arrangements of lily flowers and their giant floating leaves, aesthetically arranged dried fish and meats in the market, and this banyan tree with its own tiny pagoda. Well, trees have souls too, don't they? The next day was Temple Day, but before we dug into the main course of the world-famous Angkor Wat, we began with some tasty appetizers, smaller temples, but just as impressive. This one was one of my favorites, Ta Prohm Temple, still looking much the way it would have done when European explorers first stumbled upon it. And who could fail to be impressed by the way that trees from the surrounding jungle gripped the temple with their roots in a kind of deadly embrace. Next up was a visit to that ultimate statement of Khmer ingenuity, the most famous of Cambodia's temples and the world's largest religious building, Angkor Wat. Constructed back in the 12th century on the orders of King Suryaraman II, its vast size and detail are almost overwhelming and understandably a source of great national pride for Cambodians. And as the sun began to set, I was thrilled to spot these visiting Buddhist monks in their immaculate saffron orange robes, blending in perfectly with the magnificent temple. What a day we'd had, and what better way to end it than by joining our ship, the Viking Saigon, our home for the next 6 days. At last, we'd be sailing on the Mekong. Another day, another bamboo bridge. Well, actually my first and only bamboo bridge so far. This is a good example of the kind of surprise discoveries you can have just by wandering around and letting chance be your guide. This bridge, which connects an island in the middle of the Mekong with the riverbanks, looks as if it might collapse at any moment. It is in fact incredibly strong. Under pressure, bamboo bends rather than breaks, and people even drive cars across it. Built entirely by skillful hands and using natural materials, I found it both impressive and beautiful. As I mentioned earlier, the Cambodians I had encountered on this trip were unfailingly kind and gracious, which seems totally incompatible when compared to the horrors of the torture and executions that were carried out by the Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge, under their infamous leader Pol Pot, were a radical communist movement that ruled Cambodia from 1975 to 1979 and were responsible for an estimated 1.5 million deaths. Most of the country's professional and technical class were exterminated. So, in order to learn more about Cambodia and its history, even though I was rather dreading it, it seemed important to bear witness and visit the Killing Fields Memorial. The memorial is built on what was once an orchard, before becoming a mass grave containing almost 9,000 bodies. Most of those were political prisoners who were brutally tortured before being executed. The memorial itself is deeply moving, a tower of human skulls, and a chilling testimony to human cruelty. After visiting the killing fields, my faith in the goodness of humanity badly needed restoring, so a visit to Udon Buddhist Monastery felt like a perfect solution. There is a spectacular main temple in which our group of travelers were given a blessing by 2 young Buddhist monks, and then we were free to wander and explore the grounds where the monks live and meditate. At mealtimes, the monks and priests line up and receive food donated by the local community. And I had to admit to myself that there is something very compelling about this lifestyle of peaceful contemplation, though equally compelling was the thought of a good dinner and a cocktail back on board our ship. Whilst I was in Cambodia, myself and some fellow guests took time out to go and visit a very special place, the brainchild of an equally special man. The place is the HVTO, the Homestay Volunteer Teachers Organization, a non-profit NGO, and the man is its founder, Sim Piseth. Sim had spent 8 years of his life as a Buddhist monk, got himself educated, which included learning English and German, and then, after leaving the monastery and a spell working in restaurants and hotels, he landed his dream job of becoming a tour guide. But this wasn't enough. Sim wanted to give something back to help the children in his village to also have the chance of sharing in the benefits of education. So, in 2008, he created HVTO, which started with just one volunteer teacher and a class of 50 students. The big break came when Sim happened to meet Viking Vice President Carina Hagen during a tour he was guiding, a serendipitous encounter which led to Viking becoming the major HVTO sponsor. After that, things grew rapidly. Viking guests would visit Sim's school and assist with donations to help provide free education and equipment for the local community. Other projects followed, providing not just education, but also water pumps, housing, and food relief. He also created a sponsorship program whereby a guest can fund the education up to university level for one particular child. And so today, with the help of Viking and their guests, HVTO continues to grow and provide education and resources that offer real, life-changing possibilities to the people in the local area. A last word from the man himself, Sim Piseth.
On behalf of parents, children, and HVTO team, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much to the Vikings and their guests who've been supporting us and make it possible. With this operation, we could have enrolled 450 kids every year to come into the center to get free English and computer classes. Thank you so much.
Our voyage on the Mekong was coming to an end. Soon we would be sailing across the border, leaving behind Cambodia and returning to Vietnam. In such a short time, the ship had come to feel like our home, and the crew and fellow guests all part of one big family. But before we said our goodbyes, we had a couple of days left to explore Vietnam's most vibrant city, Saigon. Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City as it's now known, pulsates with energy. It's a whirlwind of contrasts, from luxury hotels to cheap flop houses, from fine dining to pavement food stalls, from cool, expensive boutiques to frenetic markets, and everywhere, day and night, the hum of a million scooters. There's a lot to see and do in a city like Saigon, more than you could possibly ever manage in one visit. So to end my postcard to you, I thought I'd just give you a glimpse of some of the things that caught my eye in this endlessly fascinating city.
Join Viking for 15 days in exotic Southeast Asia, where you'll explore the heart of Vietnam and Cambodia, its enduring cultures and traditions, lands linked throughout time by the immense Mekong River. Your fascinating journey begins with a 2-night stay in Hanoi, former capital of French Indochina. Set your sights on the historic 36 streets of Hanoi's Old Quarter. Enjoy the grounds of the Ho Chi Minh Memorial and pause to reflect at the infamous Hanoi Hilton. Then it's on to Cambodia for an inspiring immersion into its temples and monuments. Siem Reap is your gateway to captivating Angkor Wat. This renowned UNESCO World Heritage Site was carved from the jungle in the 12th century AD. Up next, Kampong Cham, a region with a rich architectural heritage. that includes 200 temples, some predating the Khmer Empire. And in Phnom Penh, where the Mekong and Tonle Sap rivers meet, set off on cyclos to enjoy this fascinating city, including the ornate royal palace, followed by a sobering look at the killing fields of Chung Ek. As the magnificent Mekong River unfolds before you, your Viking ship continues on to Vietnam and the expansive Mekong Delta. At Tan Chau, you can get a taste of rural life as it has been lived for ages. And venture out to Vinh Hoa, the evergreen island, for a glimpse at traditional Vietnamese farming methods. In Sa Dec, the Mekong's intriguing backwaters and rivulets lead to delightful floating markets, where all manner of the earth's bounty is sold. Vibrant Ho Chi Minh City, the former Saigon, follows, where beautifully restored French colonial architecture shares the skyline with gleaming new skyscrapers in this emerging metropolis. A 2-night stay gives you plenty of time to enjoy its quaint alleyways, tasty local dishes, and historic sites, such as the War Remnants Museum and the Reunification Palace. This vibrant city is an ideal place to conclude your unforgettable exploration of the magnificent Mekong.